the whole topic of the podcast episode was how is AI going to affect the roles within the analytics space?
All right. Yeah, so that's interesting. Yeah. So that's what we're talking about today. Okay.
Yeah.
Excellent. So what are some of the things on top of my mind? It's kind of a new topic, even though it's the original topic. So I think first things is the no code, the auto ML, the AI, those are all going to have profound impacts. I think both on what we do as data scientists, what is valued for data scientists, and also how you need to present yourself for getting that entry level job. I think that's going to be key too. So, and frankly, you could almost argue that there might in time be reduced number of entry level jobs with automation and whatnot.
Mm-hmm.
If the basic stuff is getting automated, then
Right.
then you're going to have to figure out a different way to break into it. All right, so there's in no particular order. Certainly, there's going to be automation, right? And how is that going to affect it? Well, the day-to-day tasks are going to become the sort of the manual, tedious tasks are going to become less likely. I think they're going to be less common. The idea that back like I don't know if this still holds, but it's like 80% of the time of any data science project is actually prepping the data. And like if you're still in a world of batch, and a lot of companies still are in the world of batch, you might be manually prepping the data to make it ready for
Mm-hmm.
the analysis. I think that stuff like data cleansing, data feature engineering, that's going to become automated. So that's one. So that part of our jobs, I think, are going to be reduced. Next, you've got, I think soft skills are going to be more important than they ever have been. First off, when people ask me, even when, throughout my entire life, what is the number one most important skill for a data scientist? It's always been problem solving. That is the most important skill. And honestly, I think that's what separates the good data scientists from the great data scientists, the ability to solve problems. The great data scientists are the ones, especially as like a manager, where you can say, here's a data set, here's a problem, find a solution. Tell me when you're done. And you need all the tech skills for that, right? But you just need to be able to think. You need to be able to just go, I've got nothing, I've got this problem, and I've got data. What do I do to solve it? And the like I said, the best ones are there. And I think as auto ML and all these other things become increasingly prevalent, I think that problem solving aspect is going to become even more important, to the point where, I don't know, eventually maybe that is the prime, that's the only thing we're doing, right? And everything else is automated. What else we got? It's going to create new roles in AI ethics, prompt engineering. Didn't
Right.
exist. I probably didn't. I got it. Probably me. I certainly didn't. I don't think I heard that term before November 22, right?
Right. Yeah.
Right. I mean,
It's been like 2
it's
years. Yeah.
so prompt engineers. Okay, there's a new one. I think it's gonna increase. I'm just rattling off here. If
Yeah.
you want to get into any of these, I think it's gonna increase the ability for business users to directly access the answers. Data. Not just data, because they don't really want to access data. They want to access insights, or they want to access
Right.
answers. I think the role of intermediary there that has been very common. Is like business user has a question, goes to data scientist queries data science gets answer back, data science gives it to business user. I think that's going to become less and less likely.
What was interesting is that I don't know Python, but 3 or 4 podcast episodes ago, we actually had someone who's getting a PhD in machine learning at Georgia Tech. And apparently ChatGPT, because one thing that is relevant for me is the price elasticity model. And within an hour and a half from scratch, we used ChatGPT to build it out, and it wrote out all the code,
right?
Which is fascinating to me. And it's more of I could just pay him an hourly rate to be like, hey, help me with the kind of the workings behind this, and help me learn how to use ChatGPT to write this out.
Right.
It's incredible. I mean, it's completely game changing.
So yes and no. So I actually, yeah, just 2 weeks ago, I did an experiment on this. Um, I actually wanted to see what ChatGPT could do with minimal input in terms of developing a data science project. And what I wanted, I picked customer segmentation. And I purposely didn't feed it the prompts. I said, because to feed it the proper prompts, you actually kind of need to know the steps of a customer segmentation project. I didn't want to say, okay, let's do gather the data, blah, blah, blah. So I didn't want to feed it the step by step. I said, I basically started with, I want to do a customer segmentation project, write the code for that. And it basically wrote like a few lines for k-means, which is a common way of doing customer segmentation. And it okay, and so I had to go backwards, like, okay, but what about, and I can't remember the exact way, but like, how might I prepare the data? Oh, well, you need to normalize the data. Okay, fine. Yeah, scale it, get everything on the same scale, which is good. But I was like, is there anything else I could do? Like what? Well, okay, how about log? What would happen if I took the log of everything? And then it's like, oh yeah, you could do that too, and that's how they write the code for that. And so I kept having to feed it the process. It didn't do feature engineering very well. It didn't do visualization very well. It didn't do validation very well. It basically just to do a customer segmentation. Here's the 4 lines of code. And it could be terrible because it doesn't have everything all around it. So while I successfully, or I guess ChatGPT successfully wrote, I didn't write a single line of code. I didn't write a sentence, a character of code, and that was cool. But I still had, it was almost like if I didn't know how to do a customer segmentation model, and I wasn't able to go, no, you're missing that, no, you're missing that, no, you're missing that, it wouldn't have been very good. But this is a perfect example of like where the domain knowledge is. And I assume this is, they're all going to get better and better at this. But right now, you still need to know how to do things, even if ChatGPT can then write the code of what you tell it how to do.
Right. Yeah. Because I mean, I understand price elasticity. I can understand the steps involved in that. Like if I increase the price, top offhand, maybe we have an assumption of like any percentage up, you increase the price, the demand drops by the same price. So that, that's interesting though. So it's like, you're saying I should go in and maybe study price elasticity and like how other people approach it.
Yeah. Well, before you do I'm just saying you might end up with something really not very good if you don't know how to do price elasticity studies by just going to ChatGPT and say, give me the code for a price elasticity study in Python.
Gotcha.
Because the stuff you get, it's going to be pretty rudimentary.
Gotcha. Okay.
So you still need to know my experience was you still need to know how the steps of a proper customer segmentation model, developing a proper segmentation. You can once you feed it the steps, it can give you the code. The code worked perfect. I mean, there were a few things that didn't work, and I had to go back and forth. Like that didn't work.
Right.
But the steps that it gave back to me, specifically because I wasn't prompting it very well. I mean, that was kind of the experiment. If I don't know what I'm doing, what will I get back? And I didn't get back enough without having to constantly say, "Oh, you got to do this too."
Right. Because my understanding of ChatGPT, it's really good with like problems that have documentation. So it can go in and say, here's how Python syntax works. And it can go in and write that out. But customer segmentation sounds like a pretty complex problem. So, and there's like some judgment and there's some like ambiguity there. And then it doesn't quite have that wisdom, and it's interesting because the implications of that is, I think education should embrace, AI instead of like writing writing these papers, like you should instead of saying like no ChatGPT or whatever, you should actually, it should be, you got to figure out how to use it correctly. Like they should be focusing on prompt engineering, because just regurgitating things back, that's antiquated. It's almost like a typewriter, like it's
Exactly.
It's an antiquated way of thinking. And I don't know. I mean, I saw the was it when Zuckerberg had to go in and testify at Congress, and they had no idea what's going on. But
yeah, well,
all right. Well, Kevin, I appreciate your time. We're coming up at 7:00. I guess let's end the podcast on, so how can people go about developing these skills and making themselves more competitive as far as getting their first job, or in the case of Justin, if they got laid off,
right.
Becoming more resilient.
So I think I mean, right now you still have, if you're applying, say, for an entry-level job in data science, I think you still need to have some tools in your toolbox, R, Python, whatever. But I think it's important that your resume stress all the other things you bring to the table beyond just the technology. I think you need to talk about what maybe hybrid skills you have, or domain knowledge that you have. Mm-hmm. And it doesn't matter where the domain knowledge comes from. My daughter does not have a degree in infectious diseases, but she loves podcasts on infectious diseases. It's fascinating. She's been listening to them for years. And like just the other day, I asked her about the bubonic plague. She's like, well, actually, there's 3 forms. She went on for like 20 minutes about, like, oh, okay. She doesn't have a degree in it. I don't think but she's done these podcasts for so long that she just knows it really well. She's interested. So be creative about where your hybrid skills might be coming from. When you're, I know about X, and it doesn't have to be from school. It can be from any number of places. So don't just do this tech skills. 2, make certain that your resume shows your ability to solve problems. And by that, I mean, I gave the example, the difference between a good and a great data scientist. You give them a data set, and a problem, and they solve it. So if you can have on your resume, I was given a problem, and it's not going to be some high, we're talking about college students. It's going to be, shall we say, a contained project, but that's fine. But if you can include on your resume an example or two, whatever, of where you solved a problem, that's going to go a long way. I think that's really important.